5 years passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. The initial panic had settled into grim determination. Humans were good at adapting, even to prison. Dr. Olivia Martinez stared at the holographic display in her lab beneath Olympus Mons on Mars. The barrier's energy patterns floated before her, complex and beautiful. For 3 years, she had studied them, looking for a weakness. "Any progress?" asked Commander Daniel Ross as he entered the lab. His uniform bore the new insignia of the United Solar Defense Force. Martinez nodded. "I think I found something interesting in the barrier's quantum structure." Ross moved closer to the display. "Can we break through it?" "Not exactly," Martinez said, "but maybe we can learn from it." She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular pattern. "The aliens built this barrier using principles we never considered. It's not just a wall. It's a different way of thinking about space itself." Ross frowned. "That doesn't help us escape." "It might do something better," Martinez replied. "What if instead of breaking the barrier, we use its principles to move differently? The aliens think in straight lines. We don't have to." 3 months later, Martinez presented her findings to the Solar Council. William Carter, now Earth's vice president, was among those present. "The barrier technology operates on quantum folding principles," Martinez explained. "We can't match their specific approach, but we've developed something new based on our observations, something they wouldn't expect because it's uniquely human." She activated a demonstration. A small probe disappeared from one container and instantly appeared in another across the room. "We call it the quantum fold drive," she said amid gasps. "It doesn't break through the barrier. It sidesteps it entirely by folding space in a way the barrier isn't designed to prevent." Carter leaned forward. "Can it work on a larger scale?" "We believe so," Martinez said. "We've already successfully tested it with larger unmanned vehicles." Commander Ross stepped up. "What Dr. Martinez isn't saying is that this technology is potentially superior to what the Alliance uses for their own ships. They travel through space. We can fold it." The council chamber erupted in excited conversation. President Hayes called for quiet. "If this works," she said, "what are you proposing we do with it?" Ross and Martinez exchanged looks. "Project Phoenix," Ross said firmly. "A program to secretly establish human presence beyond the barrier. Not as an escape, but as expansion." 2 weeks later, in a hidden facility beneath Europa's ice, Martinez watched as engineers installed the first human-sized quantum fold drive on an experimental ship. "Will it work?" Carter asked, standing beside her. "The math says yes," Martinez replied. "But there's only one way to find out." The test pilot, Major Ryan Cooper, gave them a thumbs up from inside the ship. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The ship disappeared in a flash of blue light. The tracking systems showed nothing for 30 seconds. Then a signal appeared from just beyond Neptune. The room erupted in cheers. Cooper's voice came through the comms. "The drive works. I'm sending back readings now." Later that night, Martinez and Ross stood before the emergency session of the council. "Project Phoenix can proceed," Martinez said. "We can go beyond the barrier without breaking it." "The aliens thought they contained us," Ross added. "Instead, they forced us to evolve." Carter smiled for the first time in years. "How soon can we build more ships?" 6 months for the first fleet," Ross answered. "And the Alliance will never see us coming," Martinez added. "They're looking for ships trying to break through the barrier. They won't be looking for ships that simply step around it." Across the solar system, factories that once built luxury goods now shifted to constructing new drives and ships. Humanity had found its way forward. The cage had become a crucible. 5 years passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. The initial panic had settled into grim determination. Humans were good at adapting, even to prison. Dr. Olivia Martinez stared at the holographic display in her lab beneath Olympus Mons on Mars. The barrier's energy patterns floated before her, complex and beautiful. For 3 years, she had studied them, looking for a weakness. "Any progress?" asked Commander Daniel Ross as he entered the lab. His uniform bore the new insignia of the United Solar Defense Force. Martinez nodded. "I think I found something interesting in the barrier's quantum structure." Ross moved closer to the display. "Can we break through it?" "Not exactly," Martinez said, "but maybe we can learn from it." She manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular pattern. "The aliens built this barrier using principles we never considered. It's not just a wall. It's a different way of thinking about space itself." Ross frowned. "That doesn't help us escape. It might do something better," Martinez replied. "What if instead of breaking the barrier, we use its principles to move differently? The aliens think in straight lines. We don't have to." 3 months later, Martinez presented her findings to the Solar Council. William Carter, now Earth's vice president, was among those present. "The barrier technology operates on quantum folding principles," Martinez explained. "We can't match their specific approach, but we've developed something new based on our observations. Something they wouldn't expect because it's uniquely human." She activated a demonstration. A small probe disappeared from one container and instantly appeared in another across the room. "We call it the quantum fold drive," she said amid gasps. "It doesn't break through the barrier. It sidesteps it entirely by folding space in a way the barrier isn't designed to prevent." Carter leaned forward. "Can it work on a larger scale?" "We believe so," Martinez said. "We've already successfully tested it with larger unmanned vehicles." Commander Ross stepped up. "What Dr. Martinez isn't saying is that this technology is potentially superior to what the Alliance uses for their own ships. They travel through space. We can fold it." The council chamber erupted in excited conversation. President Hayes called for quiet. "If this works," she said, "what are you proposing we do with it?" Ross and Martinez exchanged looks. "Project Phoenix," Ross said firmly. "A program to secretly establish human presence beyond the barrier. Not as an escape, but as expansion." 2 weeks later, in a hidden facility beneath Europa's ice, Martinez watched as engineers installed the first human-sized quantum fold drive on an experimental ship. "Will it work?" Carter asked, standing beside her. "The math says yes," Martinez replied. "But there's only one way to find out." The test pilot, Major Ryan Cooper, gave them a thumbs up from inside the ship. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The ship disappeared in a flash of blue light. The tracking systems showed nothing for 30 seconds. Then a signal appeared from just beyond Neptune. The room erupted in cheers. Cooper's voice came through the comms. "The drive works. I'm sending back readings now." Later that night, Martinez and Ross stood before the emergency session of the council. "Project Phoenix can proceed," Martinez said. "We can go beyond the barrier without breaking it." "The aliens thought they contained us," Ross added. "Instead, they forced us to evolve." Carter smiled for the first time in years. "How soon can we build more ships?" 6 months for the first fleet," Ross answered. "And the Alliance will never see us coming," Martinez added. "They're looking for ships trying to break through the barrier. They won't be looking for ships that simply step around it." Across the solar system, factories that once built luxury goods now shifted to constructing new drives and ships. Humanity had found its way forward. The cage had become a crucible. 10 years after humanity's banishment, Project Phoenix launched its first major mission. The scout ship Horizon waited in the shadow of Pluto, engine silent, crew tense with anticipation. Captain John Miller studied the final checklist. Everything had to be perfect. This mission wasn't just exploration. It was humanity's first deliberate step back into a galaxy that had rejected them. "Quantum fold drive at full charge," reported Lieutenant Susan Wells from the pilot's seat. "Stealth systems active." Miller nodded. "Begin countdown." The bridge crew of 12 held their breath. These men and women had trained for 3 years for this moment. "Fold in 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred, then snapped back into focus. The familiar shape of Pluto vanished, replaced by an unfamiliar star field. "Position?" Miller asked. "Exactly where we planned," Wells confirmed. "We're in the Vega system, at the edge of Alliance territory." Dr. Patricia Wallace, the ship's xenobiologist, stared at her readings. "Captain, I'm detecting signs of abandoned settlements on the third planet." "Abandoned?" Miller moved to look over her shoulder. "Alliance or someone else?" "Alliance, based on the energy signatures," Wallace said. "But they left years ago." Miller ordered a closer approach. The horizon moved silently through the system, its advanced stealth technology making it invisible to any standard Alliance sensors. The planet below was a paradise of blue oceans and green continents. Landing parties discovered the remains of a small Alliance mining operation, abandoned but still intact. "They barely scratched the surface," Wallace said, examining soil samples in her portable lab. "This world is rich in rare minerals, especially neodymium and dysprosium. Why would they leave such resources behind?" Miller wondered. Wallace smiled. "Their mining techniques require specific conditions. They couldn't extract these minerals efficiently, so they deemed the planet worthless." Miller understood immediately. "But our methods could work here." "Exactly," Wallace said. "Their loss, our gain." Over the next 3 weeks, the Horizon visited 6 more abandoned worlds along the edges of Alliance space. Each one had been deemed unprofitable by Alliance standards, yet contained resources that humans could use. On the last world, a small rocky planet with breathable air and mild climate, Miller made a decision. "This is it," he told his crew. "Our first colony." They named the planet Sanctuary. The Horizon sent a quantum message back to Solar Command, and within days, the first colonization ship folded into orbit. Engineer Greg Peterson supervised the construction of stealth communication relays, creating a hidden network connecting Sanctuary to Earth. "The Alliance won't detect these signals," he explained to Miller. "They operate on principles they don't even look for." 1 month later, Miller stood on a hill overlooking the first human settlement outside their solar system since the banishment. 100 colonists had already established a permanent base, with more arriving weekly. As the planet's sun rose over the eastern mountains, the morning light revealed valleys rich with mineral deposits that sparkled in the dawn. Miller planted the flag of the United Solar Systems, a new name for a civilization no longer bound to one star. "Captain," Dr. Wallace called from behind him. "Solar Command just sent a message. They've identified 15 more potential colony sites." Miller nodded. "How many ships do we have now?" 23 with quantum fold capability, Wallace replied, "and more being built every month." Miller took one last look at the rising sun. The Alliance had meant to contain humanity. Instead, they had forced humans to become more resourceful, more determined, and more united than ever before. "They should have studied Earth's history more carefully," Miller said. "Why's that?" asked Wallace. "Because humans have always been at their most innovative when backed into a corner." In the decade that followed, 14 more shadow colonies would be established, each one hidden from Alliance detection, each one growing stronger by the day. The empire was beginning to take shape. 20 years after humanity's banishment, 15 human colonies thrived in the shadows of the galaxy. The Alliance remained unaware, their patrols passing by hidden human settlements without detecting them. Stephen Clark adjusted his translator as the Viridian merchant hissed softly. The reptilian alien's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air of the neutral trading outpost. "Your prices are fair," the Viridian said, "unlike the Alliance traders who demand 3 times the value." Clark nodded. "Humans believe in mutual benefit. The Alliance believes in control." They were meeting in a small bar on an asteroid at the edge of claimed space. Around them, various non-Alliance species conducted their own business, all avoiding the watchful eyes of the galaxy's ruling power. "My people have suffered under Alliance trade restrictions," the Viridian said. They claim our mining methods are primitive and tax us heavily for access to their markets. Clark leaned forward. What if I told you there's another market? One the Alliance doesn't control. Back on Sanctuary, Commander Samantha Wright reviewed Clark's report with satisfaction. The trade network was growing. 17 non-Alliance species now secretly traded with human colonies. The Viridians have agreed to join our network, Wright told the Colony Council. They bring valuable connections throughout the Orion Arm. Vice Admiral Peter Rodriguez, military commander of the Outer Colonies, studied the star map. With the Viridians, we now have allies or trading partners in every sector bordering Alliance space. Wright nodded. And none of them have reported our existence to the Alliance. They hate the control the Alliance maintains as much as we do. Rodriguez pointed to a cluster of stars. The Alliance is growing complacent. Their patrols are becoming routine, predictable. They haven't developed new security systems in 5 years. While we've been innovating constantly, Wright added, our ships now use third-generation fold drives. Our weapons systems operate on principles the Alliance has never explored. In a hidden shipyard nestled within an asteroid field, human engineers worked alongside alien allies. The new cruiser-class vessels combined human ingenuity with Viridian armor technology and propulsion concepts from 3 other species. They're unlike anything the Alliance has ever seen, said Chief Engineer Laura Dixon, as she guided Clark through the facility. They don't use standard energy signatures. They're faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons are designed to penetrate Alliance shields specifically. Clark watched workers swarm over the hull of a massive ship. How many do we have? 30 completed, Dixon replied. Another 50 under construction across various hidden shipyards. And the Alliance still believes we're trapped behind their barrier, probably fighting among ourselves for limited resources. Dixon smiled. Their arrogance will be their downfall. Later that evening, Clark met with Wright and Rodriguez in the Secure Command Center beneath Sanctuary's capital city. 20 years, Wright said, raising a glass. 20 years of building in secret, of making allies, of preparing. To the shadows, Rodriguez added, our greatest protection. Clark stared at the strategic display showing their hidden network spanning multiple star systems. The Alliance thinks they solved the human problem by containing us. Instead, they created something far more dangerous than what they feared. What's that? Asked Wright. A humanity that learned patience, Clark said. A humanity that had to innovate or die. A humanity united with other oppressed species. Rodriguez nodded toward the shipyard feeds. How much longer do we remain hidden? Wright considered the question. Until we're ready to emerge not as refugees or rebels, but as a power they cannot possibly defeat. Outside in the night sky of Sanctuary, stars twinkled peacefully. None of the planet's 10 million human inhabitants knew that within those stars, an unstoppable force was taking shape, an empire born of necessity, forged in exile, and soon to change the galaxy forever. 50 years had passed since humanity's banishment. What began as 15 struggling colonies had grown into a vast network of 37 thriving worlds, all hidden from Alliance detection. Humans called it the Shadow Empire, though no one used that name in public. Admiral Benjamin Collins stood on the bridge of the destroyer Defiance, watching as his fleet performed training maneuvers near the edge of Viridian space. 40 ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls dark against the backdrop of stars. Admiral, his communications officer called. Emergency transmission from Outpost Delta. Collins frowned. Outpost Delta was their furthest research station, dangerously close to regular Alliance patrol routes. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, showing the worried face of Station Commander Eric Nelson. Admiral, we've been discovered. An Alliance science vessel stumbled upon us during an unexpected survey mission. Collins felt his blood run cold. Casualties? None, sir. We captured their ship intact before they could send a distress signal. And the crew? 20 Alliance scientists and 10 crew members, all in custody. Collins thought quickly. Secure the prisoners. I'm on my way with the Third Fleet. By the time Collins reached Outpost Delta, an Alliance response fleet had arrived. 3 Alliance cruisers hung in space, demanding the return of their science vessel. They don't know what they found, said Collins' second-in-command, Captain Grace Wilson. They think we're just pirates or smugglers. Collins watched the Alliance ships on the tactical display. They're about to learn the truth. When the Alliance ships threatened to open fire, Collins gave the order. 6 human destroyers decloaked around the Alliance cruisers, weapons locked on target. The Alliance commander's shocked face appeared on screen. Impossible. You're human. Admiral Benjamin Collins of the United Solar Fleet. Collins introduced himself calmly. Your vessels are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons. The Alliance commander complied, his hands shaking. The barrier. How did you? That's a long story, Collins replied. One your Galactic Council will soon hear. 3 days later, on Sanctuary, the Human Leadership Council debated their next move. The secret is out, said President Nathan Kelly. We have 2 choices: continue hiding what we can, or reveal ourselves completely, on our terms. William Carter, now in his 70s and serving as an advisor, spoke up. If we stay hidden, they'll hunt us down piece by piece. But if we reveal ourselves, we show them exactly how powerful we've become, finished Ambassador Catherine Nelson. All at once. The vote was unanimous. After 50 years in the shadows, humanity would step into the light. 1 week later, Ambassador Nelson's diplomatic ship arrived at Centauri Station, a neutral trading hub on the edge of Alliance space. Representatives from 12 major alien governments watched in stunned silence as Nelson took her place at the diplomatic table. My name is Catherine Nelson, representing the United Solar Systems and our 37 colony worlds. The Alliance representative, a blue-skinned Centauri, stood up in shock. This is impossible. Humans are contained behind the barrier. Nelson smiled. That barrier became our greatest teacher. While you thought us safely locked away, we were building, learning, and growing. She activated a holographic display showing the extent of human territory and their allied species. We request a full assembly of the Galactic Council, Nelson continued. Humanity wishes to address the grievances of our unjust banishment and to establish our rightful place among the stars. The Centauri representative stared at the display in horror. The human territory was vast, strategically positioned, and showed military capabilities far beyond what should have been possible. What will you do if we refuse? He asked. Nelson's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened. That would be unwise. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment. We don't want war, but we are very, very good at it. Across human space, fleets moved into position. The Shadow Empire was stepping into the light, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council refused to meet with humanity. Instead, they sent their response in the form of a massive battle fleet headed straight for the Sanctuary system. They've assembled over 200 ships, reported Fleet Commander Andrew Phillips as he studied the tactical display aboard the human flagship Vindication. Around him, the bridge crew worked calmly despite the approaching danger. President Kelly's face appeared on the main screen. Commander Phillips, the Council has rejected all diplomatic efforts. They demand our immediate surrender and return to the Sol system. Phillips nodded grimly. They still think of us as we were 50 years ago. They expect us to be overwhelmed by their numbers. Show them how wrong they are, Kelly said. But remember our directive. Minimal loss of life where possible. We want to defeat them, not destroy them. As the Alliance fleet approached Sanctuary, they found only empty space. Their sensors detected nothing in the system except the human colony on the planet below. No defensive fleet, no orbital weapons platforms. Where are their ships? Demanded Alliance Admiral Zornak, a veteran commander known for his ruthless efficiency. Scan again. His sensor officer shook his head. Nothing, Admiral. The system appears undefended. Zornak smiled. So the humans bluffed. All their talk of strength was nothing but empty words. He turned to his communications officer. Send the ultimatum. They have 1 hour to begin evacuation before we destroy their colony. The response came immediately, not from the planet, but from directly behind the Alliance fleet. This is Fleet Commander Andrew Phillips of the United Solar Forces. Your ships are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to withdraw. Zornak spun around as his tactical officer shouted in alarm. 80 human warships had appeared from nowhere, their advanced stealth systems rendering them completely invisible until now. Impossible, Zornak hissed. Open fire. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. Human vessels moved with impossible speed and precision, their quantum folding drives allowing them to appear and disappear across the battlefield at will. Alliance targeting systems couldn't lock onto ships that wouldn't stay in one place. Human weapons cut through Alliance shields as if they weren't there. Phillips had ordered his fleet to target weapons and engines only, minimizing casualties while systematically disabling the Alliance fleet. When it was over, 187 Alliance ships drifted powerless in space. Only 13 had managed to escape. The humans had lost none. Phillips opened a channel to Zornak's crippled flagship. Admiral, your fleet is defeated. Your ships can be repaired, but it will take time. I suggest you use that time to reconsider your council's position regarding humanity. 1 week later, reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Other species, long oppressed by Alliance policies, had seen what happened at Sanctuary. Rebellions erupted on dozens of worlds. On the Viridian homeworld, crowds toppled statues of Alliance officials. The reptilian species declared their independence and immediately signed a formal alliance with humanity. In the Proxima sector, 3 previously neutral systems announced they were joining what they called the Free Systems Alliance, a name that quickly caught on. Phillips met with President Kelly and the Human Leadership Council to review the situation. The alliance is fracturing, Phillips explained. Their military is in disarray, and their political structure is collapsing. Ambassador Nelson added, we're receiving requests for protection from 17 different worlds. They want to join us. Kelly looked around the table. This was never about revenge. It was about creating something better than what the Alliance built. Carter, witnessing the culmination of 50 years of planning, smiled. They feared us for our potential for violence. Now they'll respect us for our capacity for justice. Across the galaxy, the message spread. A new power had emerged from the shadows. The humans had returned, and they brought with them the promise of something the Alliance had never offered. Freedom. 100 years had passed since humanity's banishment from galactic society. The old Galactic Alliance was gone. In its place stood the Congress of Free Worlds, with over 200 member species from across the galaxy. At the center of this new galactic order was humanity, not as conquerors, but as founders and protectors of a different kind of interstellar community. Eliza Howard stood at the window of her office, looking out at the spectacular view of the capital city on New Earth. As the first human elected to lead the galactic government, she carried the weight of history on her shoulders. Madam President, her aide announced, your visitor has arrived. Howard turned as William Carter entered the room. Now in his final years at age 172, the legendary diplomat moved slowly with the help of medical technology. His mind, however, remained as sharp as ever. William, Howard greeted him warmly. Thank you for coming all this way. Carter smiled. I wouldn't miss your inauguration for anything. Not many people get to see their life's work completed. Together, they walked to the balcony overlooking the Grand Plaza where representatives from hundreds of worlds had gathered. The former council headquarters had been rebuilt and expanded, its architecture now blending styles from dozens of cultures. It's hard to believe, Carter said, looking down at the diverse crowd. A century ago, they called us too dangerous to exist among them. Howard nodded. And now we lead the largest political entity in galactic history. In the years following the Battle of Sanctuary, the old alliance had tried desperately to maintain control. But their military had been broken, their economy was collapsing, and their member worlds were declaring independence one after another. The remains of the alliance eventually reformed into the Zentari Confederation, now just one of many powers in the galaxy, and far from the strongest. "Your inauguration speech is ready," Carter noted. "Nervous?" Howard laughed. "A little. It's not every day you become the first human leader of the galaxy." Below them, the crowd began to quiet as the ceremony time approached. Howard would soon address not just those physically present, but trillions watching across thousands of worlds. "They banished us because they feared what we might become," Carter reflected. "The irony is that without that banishment, we would never have become this." Howard understood. Exile had forced humanity to develop in ways they never would have otherwise. The barrier meant to contain them had become the catalyst for their greatest achievements. Later, as Howard stood before the assembled representatives of the Congress, she looked out at faces of every color, shape, and form. A true galactic community, united not by force, but by choice. 100 years ago, she began, humanity faced extinction as a galactic presence. Today, we stand at the center of the greatest peaceful alliance ever known. Across the galaxy, humans and aliens alike watched the historic address. "We were feared for our differences," Howard continued. "Now those differences are celebrated as strengths. We were banished for our potential for conflict. Now we are valued for our capacity for cooperation." In the audience, Carter felt his eyes grow moist. This moment represented everything he had worked for since that dark day in the council chamber a century before. As the speech concluded and thunderous applause filled the hall, Howard made her way back to where Carter waited. "Well," she asked, "what did you think?" The old man smiled, his eyes filled with pride and wonder. "We didn't just survive," he said. "We showed them what humanity truly is." Howard nodded. "And what is that?" Carter looked out at the gathering of species from across the galaxy. All free, all equal, all working together. "Unstoppable," he said simply, "but not in the way they feared." Beyond the windows of the Congress Hall, the stars shone brightly over a galaxy transformed. The human empire had indeed become unstoppable, not through conquest, but through justice, innovation, and the unbreakable spirit that had always defined humanity at its best.